Hi, everyone. Greg Mescall here. Thanks for joining us on USA Water Polo Facebook Live as we wind down our 2-week Why We Play series. Awesome conversation on the way as we're talking all things Paralympic movement, celebrating the Paralympic movement. And we have three amazing Paralympians that are joining us here today that are going to tell us their stories and share some more about the Paralympic movement. It's not something that exists in water polo, so we thought it was a great chance for the water polo community to kind of better understand this. And here to help us do that, we've got a 3-time Paralympian in swimming, Tucker Dupree. We've also got another, and there are medals abound when we talk about all of these Paralympians. There's a lot of hardware here. Rico Roman, a gold medalist, 2014, 2018 in sled hockey, and then Danelle Umstead, 3-time Paralympian and multiple medals as well in Alpine Skiing. Thank you all for being here. Really, really appreciate it. I know you've all gotten the chance to kind of tell your story in the past, and if you wouldn't mind, we'll kind of just go around the virtual room here again. And Tucker, I'll start with you. Can you kind of just tell us a little bit about how you ended up in this Paralympic movement and some of the things that you've enjoyed about the career that you've carved out?
Yeah, so I actually am visually impaired, so that's how I am in Paralympics. I'm 75% blind. Lost my vision at 17 years old to a super rare condition called LHON. After my vision loss, I went on to swim in the 2008 Games in Beijing, China, where I didn't win any medals, but it also lit the fire for me to be medal hungry, where I would compete for the next 4 years. I swam in the London Games, where I won a silver medal and 2 bronze medals in backstroke and freestyle. And then I swam in the 2016 Games as well, and won a bronze medal in the 100 backstroke. But swimming has always been a sport that has been very cathartic to me because I lost my vision when I was actually swimming. So I had already started swimming, and then after that lost my vision in my career, in my high school career. And so that transition between basically losing my vision as a high school athlete to then later on go and compete in the Paralympic Games was something that was so surreal. And having the opportunity to wear the Team USA uniform for 12 years was also something great. And just represent disability sports on the world stage is something that I know all of us are very passionate about, but also very grateful that Paralympics gave us that platform. So that's kind of my 2-minute elevator pitch, but I guess I can pass it off to maybe Danelle.
Excellent, Danelle.
Hi guys, I'm Danelle Umstead. I'm a 3-time Paralympian alpine ski racing. That sounds kind of crazy, but I do ski race and I have a guide that skis in front of me, and we wear headsets in our helmet where we communicate back and forth. My guide is my husband, and he guides me down the mountain telling me what to expect and when things will be coming up. And as we're hitting up to 70 miles per hour as a team. It's pretty crazy, I know, but it's all about trust and communication and obviously major teamwork. I started losing my vision at the age of 13, and I lost all my usable vision later on in life, about 10 years later. So I have no central vision and I have no peripheral vision. My central vision is completely gone, and it's spreading out to my peripheral, and my peripheral is closing into my central. That's kind of how I like to explain it. And if I gave a number to it, I probably have lost about 92% of my vision. I have very little left, but I don't complain anymore. I love ski racing, and when I found the sport of ski racing, I was actually an adult. And so most people, when they are an Olympian or a Paralympian, they have done the sport since they were a child. Well, I was different. When I started losing my sight, I started believing that there was nothing that blind people could do. Boy, was I wrong. And my father introduced me to skiing. And once I fell in love with skiing, immediately wanted to do more and just ignited a passion that anything was possible. And I started skiing with my dad as my guide. And then I found out about the Paralympic Games. And my husband started guiding me in 2008, and we ended up, everybody told me it was impossible, that I was too old. I started the sport too late, and I put in 1,000 hours and 1,000 more. And I just was so determined to prove everybody that anything's possible and really prove to myself that I could do this. And we ended up, my husband and I, representing Team USA at the 2010 Paralympic Games and winning 2 bronze medals. And we just didn't stop there. We kept on going to 2014 and 2018. And it's kind of crazy, the movement of the Paralympics. Like in 2010, the Paralympic Games were heard of, but it wasn't just as pronounced that it is now. Like now we are supported by major companies like Toyota, and we're sponsored athletes and we're paid equally. And it's so amazing from seeing the change in the movement from the 2010 Paralympic Games until now. It's done a 360. It's incredible. And representing my country on the stage is the most beautiful thing I've ever done. I grew up wanting to represent my country in the military and found out I could not do that because of my vision. And so I was very disappointed, and my dreams kind of did a reverse and came back, and I'm representing my country as a Paralympian, and it's an honor every time.
Oh, we just lost Rico there. I know he was having some internet issues. It was going to be the perfect segue, Danielle, because Rico was in the military and then was able to represent Team USA. So we'll hopefully, looks like we might have to tell Rico's
story too? Rico Roman. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, while we get Rico back here, looks like we have him back. Rico, you with us?
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
You missed my segue, Rico.
Yeah, Danielle had set you up nicely. She had talked about wanting to be in the military, but ended up representing USA later. You were the reverse. You were military, and now the chance to represent Team USA. Tell us about your journey.
Yes. So back in 2007, I was in the military, and unfortunately had a bad day at the office, and we ran over an IED, or big bomb, and I sustained injuries to both my left and right leg. Amputee, and found the sport through rehab through a group called Operation Comfort. They asked me to come and do hand cycling with them, and there I was invited to try sled hockey. I didn't grow up, like Danielle said, you know, I didn't play hockey, I didn't watch hockey. I actually done a bunch of times, and I didn't want to do it.
Oh, we might have lost him there a little bit.
Oh, man.
The story was
just getting good.
At least he froze in a smile.
Yeah, this is a perfect portrait.
Does he look good?
Well, let's, we'll try and come back to him. But Tucker, I wanted to circle back to you and Danielle as well, because I was talking, especially in your world swimming, I was talking with a fellow Paralympic swimmer, Robert Griswold, a couple of weeks back, and talking about being places and seeing athletes compete and people not realizing that there was a Paralympic route for them to take part in, right? So they were Paralympic eligible in any different way it might be, but they didn't even know that it was important, as Danielle alluded to, right? The movement has gained such steam. So from your standpoint, Danielle, I'll ask you afterwards, but in this Paralympic movement, what sort of responsibility, if any, do you feel to be kind of an evangelist for the Paralympics, letting people know about all the great things it's brought you?
I think it's platforms like this, right? It's people getting out, telling our stories, putting it in the limelight, having that opportunity to showcase what athletes with disabilities can do. That's why we train every day, right? That's why we wake up in the hours and do all the stuff that you see, like your high profile athletes like Michael Phelps, all the people that we know that are household names. We do the same thing. It's just, we also get to check a disability at the door. So I think that our counterparts, Olympic athletes, realize that, and countless athletes have told me that it's something that's a movement, and it takes people and platforms and groups like water polo to have us here to talk about our stories and to showcase what we do actually have the ability to do. So I would say that it is a movement. It has come so far, even from 2007, from my first Paralympic experience. It definitely takes people having that opportunity to talk about their story and, showcase that. That's really what it's all about. And I appreciate you having us here to have that opportunity. But it's still going to take time, right? It's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. And it's great to be a part of that, or a small piece of that big puzzle.
And Danielle, your thoughts?
I agree 100%. I mean, it's platforms we are given to speak our stories and show people that we're as able as anybody else. We just do it a different way. To qualify for the Paralympics, it's the same way that people have to qualify for the Olympics. We have to go to World Cups. We have to do everything exactly the same. Sometimes people often assume that we just go to the Paralympic Games and we don't compete throughout the year, the years, I should say. And putting our story out there and putting our best foot forward and showing people what we're doing is helping the movement. And I hope that it continues to grow, because from my 2010 to now, it's grown so much. It's absolutely incredible. And I love to watch the movement, be a part of the movement. I actually was the first blind contestant on Dancing with the Stars. And so even that is showcasing the Paralympics. And it's a huge thing to show people out there that anything's possible.
It looks like, Rico, we have you back here. I think
I'm back. I'm back.
Computer to the phone. You had frozen perfectly with a smile, telling us a bit of your story. I think if you can pick it back up, you were talking about being invited to join a sled hockey program.
Yes. So the sled hockey program was run by a group called Operation Comfort, and I actually said no a bunch of times. I didn't grow up playing hockey, but gave it a try, was instantly hooked. At that locker room, we had an all-military team, so different branches of service, Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, you name it, all on this team doing rehab. And that locker room was something special to me, and that camaraderie, I got that back, you know, after being injured, and then found out this was a Paralympic sport. Thought I was in great shape coming out of rehab, and went and tried out for the 2010 Vancouver team and did not make the team. They gave me a little slice of humble pie, I like to say. And, you know, these guys dedicated their life to that sport to be able to go and play at the Paralympic Games. And I was not ready. I went back to the drawing board, went hard to work with my teammates, played hockey on the video games and learned the sport a little bit more, watched it a bunch. And made the team for 2014. I'm one of the first war wounded veterans to make the Paralympic team. I've gotten to compete in 2014 and in 2018 again. The team has changed so much from then to now, and it's just been nothing but fun to be a part of it, to wear that jersey with the other guys, to see our flag raised, winning a gold medal. I mean, it gives you goosebumps just thinking about it, you know, doing it in Russia, against Russia in 2014, and then again, beating Korea in overtime. I mean, that game was such a nail-biter game, and to bring home gold 2 times with my teammates, I would never do it. I would do it all over again if I had to.
And Rico, we were just talking a bit as you were getting signed back on, but also about the opportunity that you all have, and maybe the responsibility that you feel to be promoters of the opportunity to take part in the Paralympic movement. And the way you describe your journey, I mean, you went through some challenging things, to put it mildly, and you describe it very matter-of-factly, a bad day at the office, right? This was some intense stuff, but you've developed this perspective now as you participate in sled hockey. What do you feel when you think about sharing it with others and letting people know that they can do the same thing you're doing?
I think, putting in the hard work day in and day out, all Paralympians share that aspect. You know, none of us, I feel like, wake up with this talent and just going out and get gold medals. Like, every day you're putting in work to try to make that team. Like Danelle said, we have world qualifiers, tryouts. We have them every July for my team. You know, it could be up to 80 guys, and they're taking the top 17. And, you know, bringing home that gold medal and these world gold medals, to me, they're not just mine. I think some of the best things we get to do as gold medalists and as Paralympians is take that medal around and show younger people and people with disabilities, like, look, you know, with hard work, you can do this, or whatever your dream is. And I think with sport, I feel like it's a way that we can interact with so many different countries, knock down all kinds of barriers, whether it's religion, race, all kinds of different things to bring us together and unite us in sport. And I'm just honored to be in this role and to be able to share that with so many people.
Really, really well said. Tucker, I'll come back to you. I think during this last 4 months, right, this unprecedented time of pandemic and everything else that's going on, people are facing adversity like they've never faced before, right? They had a certain way of life that they knew, and it's kind of been altered or adjusted or taken away from them in some way. And I can't help but think of Paralympians that people might assume have overcome the odds, right, and have worked through adversity and know how to bounce back from the biggest challenges life can throw at you. What have you learned from your journey? And I'll kind of ask all of this, but what have you learned from your journey that maybe can apply to someone else who's dealing with a struggle now during these times?
I think that, obviously in sport, we all receive bits and little nuggets of, motivational quotes or, just analogies from your coaches that we all take with us. And hopefully you are able to apply those outside of sport as well. But I think the biggest thing that I would tell athletes in the world that we're living in today is that, you can really only worry about the things that you can control. We all are in the same boat, right? Like we all have the same situation where we either don't have pool time or you don't have opportunity to train to the level that you were before. But I think that just from like a swimming perspective, it's, I've always had that mentality of, I can only focus on the things that I have control over. I don't have control over the pool temperature. I don't have control over what my competitors ate that night, how much sleep they got. I do have control over my mindset, my mental toughness, how I'm going to show up to the race, and just really putting that across, a blanket of what's going on right now, right? I think that that's something that I've talked to a lot of swimmers about right now is, we do have opportunities to train at home. You can still stay fit. You can do different things to really make sure that you're keeping that mental toughness as well. It might not be the exact training you're used to, but making sure that you're staying engaged, reaching out to other teammates, making sure that they're okay from a mental perspective as well is super important because, you are in it together, I think is really important. But just making sure that you can really only put that emphasis around the things that you can control. And it starts right here in your mind and making sure that you can understand that everyone's kind of going through some form of adversity right now. And just making sure that you're staying fit mentally and physically to your best ability with the resources that you have.
And Danielle, you had talked earlier about once upon a time thinking there weren't many opportunities out there, right, for visually impaired or blind people, and understanding that wasn't the case at all. How did you develop that mindset to kind of turn that around and understand the opportunities, but then go after them? And can any of that be applied to today's situations?
Yes. When I first started skiing with my dad as my guide, I found a sense of freedom that I never felt before. So that sense of freedom, I was like, wow, I really love this. This is something I love to do. And I found passion and I found freedom that I had not had since I started losing my sight. So I might have got a little obsessive about skiing and moved to the mountains and took a job at the ski and boot shop located right next to the ski slopes and asked everybody to guide me down the mountain, which they thought I was crazy that worked there on their lunch hour. I was like, just wear this and guide me down the mountain. I found an obsession of something I love to do. And it gave me, like I said, that sense of freedom. And that sense of freedom started pushing me and igniting something inside of me that I had never felt before, even before when I had low vision. I just never had this passion before. And the feeling of being on the skis and the joy it gave me. And every time I learned something new, I would work hard at it and try to learn something else new. And I obviously love challenge. And I learned through the process that I like adrenaline too, which I never knew I loved. And I feel like through this pandemic, we have all been forced to sit back and pay attention. And I think we've all have been so busy to realize that we are all better together. And if we can help one another and support one another through these hard times, that we can get through it together. And I think the pandemic has highlighted that quite a bit. And I feel like if we could all kind of be not necessarily blind, but reaching out to people. Like I have a guide and I'm constantly reaching out to my guide to help me get through things. Well, if we could reach out to each other and support one another and lift each other up and challenge one another, even in these hard times, we can get through anything.
That's really well said. And it's another dynamite segue over to Rico, Danielle, because Rico had talked earlier about wanting to get. she was
just like softballs all day.
But Rico, you had talked about when you got into sled hockey, you got that chance to be back around a group, a close-knit group that obviously you had initially when you were with the Army. And so as you're able to bounce back from first your accident, right, and then being cut from the roster, right, not making the team, what did you learn from those moments that can get applied today when people are dealing with any other sort of adversity?
I think, number one, putting in that hard work, and I wouldn't be in this position without my teammates, like Danelle said, reaching out and getting that help. And also, being able to be in the position I am, helping out the next person that wants to get here. We can all help one another out. I get texts on Instagram or Facebook from other sled hockey guys and girls on what kind of tips and tricks to use to practice during these times. I've also posted a few different ones. So like Tucker had mentioned, focusing on what you can control is huge. I feel for both my kids right now. My daughter graduated and wanted to have this big ceremony, and we watched it online, her graduation, and what could I do for her? So I threw her in the car and we drove over to grandma's house and all around the neighborhood. I'm so proud of her, and that was something I can control. I can't control that we had to do it online, but I can control how happy I am about her graduating. I think it's important to reach out to one another. I think it's important to, focus on the things that you can do. I was so lucky and fortunate to have a hockey net that one of my teammates had given me that he no longer needed. And right before this all popped off. So practicing in my garage, staying positive, working out. I mean, working out in itself releases endorphins, and then you feel good, and then you can pass on that positive. It's easy to get in a slump and to say, whoa, me. And I could have done that as well when I had my leg and my accident and my amputation. But I don't live that type of life. I've never felt, oh, sorry for myself. You got to get back on the horse. If you fall down, you got to get up. And you can do that. And I've been so fortunate. Our coaches have been doing these Zoom calls, and we've all, as a team, have gotten to get on and see each other and interact. It's been huge, especially, those first couple of weeks where we're just, staying put. I thought that was awesome to see my teammates, to smile, to ask them how they're doing. And I think that's how we're going to get through this. Like you said, Danielle, together, that's the way we're going to do it.
Really good stuff, Rico. We're talking about celebrating the Paralympic movement here with 3 Paralympians. If you're watching live on our Facebook page, feel free to leave a question or a comment in the comment section, and we'll share those. We've touched on kind of the growth of the movement and progress that has been made, and you can see it, as Danielle alluded to, since 2010 or earlier. When the Paralympics come around, there's now more television time. There's more coverage. There's things like the Paralympic name getting merged with Team USA, right? So now it's the USAWP when you think about describing Team USA at large. Tucker, things like that obviously help. What else needs to get done? What else do you want to see down the road to kind of help further this movement?
Yeah, I think that it just takes companies like Toyota, like, Hartford, all of the different partners that work with the Paralympics. You have these opportunities where they're stepping up and saying, we want to work with Paralympic athletes, and companies like BP that only work with Paralympic athletes. It takes big stance like that, I think, to really show the world that, we're people first. And I think that's something that I really try and convey to a lot of different people, right? Like, I'm a person with a disability, and in that sentence, the word person comes first. And I think that it takes companies and people and having that exposure of being on TV to make people realize, like, you know, if that first, like, I'd say 2 or 3 minutes of looking at, you know, a Paralympic sport, I'm pretty sure a lot of people say like, oh man, I feel bad, or like, oh, that looks like it hurts, or something like that. And I think that, you know, all of us look at each other as people. You know, when you get around the Paralympic community, you know, we interact with each other like nothing's wrong. And I think that that's something that we all share. You know, no matter what race you are, whatever your disability is, you have that opportunity to really just talk to each other as people. And I think that's something that is so important, and also is something that the Paralympic movement does also showcase. But I really just think it's awesome that, you know, you have a sport platform for all of us that has an opportunity to do it all around the world. I got to travel the world and do a sport that I loved. And I think that that's something that Paralympics does, and does for the future of sports and athletes with disabilities, whether you're young or you acquire your disability later on in life. The Paralympic movement is so surreal, and you know, we get to do a lot of great things with it.
Tucker, you hit on something interesting there, and I want to follow up on that. When you talked about the feeling that maybe someone might have the first time they flip on a Paralympic event, or maybe they're there in the stands and they see it for the first time, and it's almost maybe a feeling of sympathy first before understanding the competitive nature of what's going on. And it made me think about a lot of the other things that are going on in the sport of water polo, for example. A lot of work starting over the last couple of months to really try and diversify the sport from a race perspective. And one of the things that comes up often is when you have athletes of color playing, the goal long-term is to not be, well, I'm the first this, or I'm the first that, I'm just one of the athletes, because it becomes so widespread. Is there a similar feeling among Paralympians where the preference would just be, this is another great athlete, or is it important to have that classification of someone doing something with a disability?
I think the biggest thing that, you know, you can take away from sports is that, you know, with skiing, sled hockey, whatever it is, the results speak for themselves, right? Like, it doesn't really matter the color of your skin, the disabilities you have in the team or by yourself. At the end of the day, we're all competing for a piece of metal or a world record, or whatever the, you know, goals are that you've set in front of you. And I think that, you know, we've touched on that as well, is that sports at the international stage, as well as like the grassroots level, is an opportunity to set aside all the obstacles and things that we have in front of us and unite around one thing. And I think that's something that's so valuable about the Paralympics and the Olympics and just sport in general, is that there is this one period of time every 2 years that we all come together, put aside the wars that are going on in the world, put aside all the politics, and we come to compete and showcase all of our hard work. And that's something that I think nothing about that whole journey has anything to do with race or anything. I think that all comes down to the fact that we are there to compete and show off our hard work. That's what I tell kids all the time, whether it's at swim clinics or working with younger athletes. It's like, one of my favorite things to do is, like, at swim camps, is to look at kids and say, all right, you want to know how you can win a race? This is the first thing you have to do. And I literally tell them to kiss their biceps like that, and then look at their competitors and say, good luck. That's one of my favorite things to do, but that's what it is, right? Like, we all work hard every day, day in, day out. And when it comes to that championship meet or whatever that is that you're trying to do and showcase, you're there to show off your hard work and your passion for the sport. And, you know, whether you're standing on the podium or whether you successfully achieved the goal that you had set in front of yourself, you know that it's the team behind you that got you there. You know, it's all those early morning workouts that got you there. That's what it's all about. And that's what we get to do through sports. That's
really well said, Tucker. Excellent stuff. Danelle, I want to come back to you before I get your take on what else you want to see in the Paralympic movement. Your friend there popped up quickly into the screen. Do you want to introduce us to who's joining you?
Yes, this is Aziza. Now you won't come up here and say hi. Can you guys see her?
Yeah, we could for a moment there. Okay, there she is. Yep.
Can you say hi to everybody? She is my seeing eye dog, my guide dog. And actually, I broke my leg in February, and she has not been able to guide me for 6 months. I've been on recovery. I broke my tib and fib, and so she likes to be by my side all the time. Can you tell? So when we got today's International Service Dog Day or something, so I told her she could join the show, and she just loves to kiss me too.
Well, we are thrilled to have her here. Thanks for the introduction. And now to follow up on what Tucker was talking about, what else? The next 5 years, 10 years, what other things need to happen to keep this thing going in the right direction?
You know, my mind just starts rolling when all of that question comes up. There's a lot still to be done. There's a whole lot still to be done. And I'm sure that's in a lot of sports, not just disabled sports. You know, I think that people are missing out on how hard disabled athletes work, Paralympians work, prior to being Paralympians, how we go through the process. And I think showcasing some of the World Cups and showcasing, you know, more television time, whether it be on a private television network or whatever it may be, I think that's still missing. And I think that, I mean, a lot of the sponsors are there, like Toyota, paving a path, showing them how to support these athletes, but everybody else needs to start stepping up, you know, not just for disabled athletes, for other sports and everything else, for everybody to be equal. And I feel like I'm starting a nonprofit, and my goal is to help women and girls with a disability through women and girls. You know, it's not disabled women supporting girls and women with a disability. It's disabled women, Olympians, all kinds of women reaching out together and supporting these athletes, because disabled athletes have such a hard time. But if you think about it, women in sport have a hard time. Now think about a woman disabled athlete. Like, that support needs to be there. We need to showcase these stories. We need to show how hard they work. And I want to help support that. And I just feel like having these companies, having the networks, and, you know, the companies supporting, the networks supporting, and showing these stories of these amazing, incredible athletes out there. Like, there's so many amazing athletes that you still haven't seen. You might have seen parts of the Paralympics, but it's still hard to find when the Paralympics are on. We need more exposure.
Good stuff. And as you've alluded to, and everyone kind of hit on, collaboration is key, right? When you have people supporting each other, not just your teammates, but then a larger community chips in and helps out, it can really make a difference. Rico, I'll come back to you in a similar question to you, but from your standpoint, where do you want to see things moving down the road?
I would like to see it grow. I mean, like we've had a big jump from 2010 to 2014. I keep hearing from a lot of Paralympians that, like, I felt the summer London games really kicked off and really pushed the Paralympic movement. You know, I think more TV airtime is huge because people love sport, whether it's Paralympic or Olympic. I would love to see maybe both Paralympic games and Olympic games kind of at the same time, maybe the same venue. Instead of waiting that 2 weeks and then Paralympics come on, maybe there's a way that, you know, when they're having downtime for the, you know, stand-up hockey guys, you know, they throw in our Paralympic sled hockey guys. You know, I mean, there's a way that we can, you know, incorporate it both maybe at the same time, and then people get to see it, you know, firsthand, you know, like because they're not racing, I don't think, every day. You know, there has to be a down day. And during that downtime, I think that would be an awesome time to, you know, be able to showcase and watch the best of the best. I mean, Paralympians, you know, putting in the work and playing on the national stage, I think would be huge. Also at the grassroots level, funding to these Paralympic clubs throughout the United States is how you get people to and the equipment they need and the training and even the knowing of the sport. Like I said, I had no clue sled hockey was even a Paralympic sport. So I think that's huge to make sure that the club teams throughout the U.S. and, you know, people with the disability understand, like, hey, where do I go for the resources? Who do I talk to? All those little kind of things help the person be able to get to where they want to go.
You're so right. It goes for so many things, but if you don't know about a thing, you can't appreciate it, right? Or you can't support it. And like the sports that all of you have taken part in, if you can't see it on the TV or hear it on the radio or the internet radio, or whatever it is, or read about it in some way, how can you know about it and support it? We did get a couple of questions coming in from the Facebook page, so I'll pass this along now. I'll start with you, Tucker. Outside of your current sport, and we're going to also eliminate water polo because that's our page here. What other Paralympic sport would you compete in if you couldn't do swimming and/or in some dream world water polo?
Oh my gosh, that is a tough question. Well, I definitely don't trust anyone enough to ski 70 miles an hour, because that is the scariest version of Marco Polo I can imagine. That game at the pool. But I would say probably, I don't know, track and field. Why not? I just like the cardiovascular part of it. I think I could probably do it, but I would be very terrible at it. So I'm just going to go with it.
Excellent. And Danielle, what would you try?
I know what mine is. I love the water, and it would be rowing. I would love to row. Like, that would be amazing for me. It's hard work. You work as a team. And even though ski racing is an individual sport for the blind and visually impaired, it's a team sport. So I got the teamwork down. I just need the team.
Perfect. And Rico, if not sled hockey, what would you do?
Ski.
No, I've never honestly tried skiing. When I'm done with my sled hockey career, I'm definitely going to try it out. But I think my sport would definitely be wheelchair basketball. I love basketball. I'm a big basketball fan. I cross-train playing wheelchair basketball. I love the speed of it. I love shooting hoops. So, and those guys are the best of the best. So that would be something I would love to compete in.
Excellent. And then Daniel, I have to come back to you because we've heard a bit about your competition, and your husband is your guide. And just tell us more about, that's obviously your relationship. You're married to this man, but what's the relationship on the slope? How do you work together as a unit to make it happen? Is it something you've had to practice as far as the communication? How does all of that come together so that you're successful?
Yeah, so Rob wasn't my first guide. Actually, the first time Rob and I skied together was a year after we met, because I wanted to be a better skier. We were both living in Taos, New Mexico. We were dating, and anytime my guide would say, "Oh, there's Rob," I'd be like, "Go the other way. I want to be better than him." So I just wanted to prove to him that I was not just some blind girl out there skiing. I just wanted to show him that, because he was a ski racer in college and a ski racing coach and all of that. So when he moved, he got an offer we were both living in Taos, New Mexico, and he got offered a job in Park City. He asked me to go with him. And here in Park City, I heard about a program called the National Ability Center, which is a club program where I learned how to ski race. And it took 3 different guides. I had 3 different guides. My first 2, you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to say it out loud. My first guide ended up being blind in one eye, and he didn't tell me, and it was the blind leading the blind. So it was a kind of crazy and scary for me. And then my second guide, our personalities didn't match, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And then my third guide was amazing, and she taught me so much. She was a master ski racer. She was an incredible woman, and she and I competed, and we started moving up the ranks, and I really felt like, sorry, that was my phone talking to me. I finally felt like that teamwork could work, but again, she couldn't commit to me full time, and I didn't get that constant relationship that I do now. So when Rob decided to guide me, I was kind of at my wit's end. I was qualified to go to Europa Cups, but I couldn't travel because my guide wasn't able to travel. She had kids, blah, blah, blah. And when Rob and I started skiing together, we actually got married on top of the mountain in 2008. And from the time we said, I do, in our wedding clothes, we skied down, and he started guiding me from there on out. It was in the prenup that he would guide me from there on out. Anyway, so when he started guiding me, there were so many problems, like communication problems, trust problems. Everybody's like, well, he was your boyfriend or he's your husband. You trust him, right? I'm like, absolutely not. Did not trust him one bit. And I think that because we were married, it was causing me to not trust him a little more. I know that sounds awful. I trust him in a lot of ways, but like, I felt like he always wanted to be Olympian. Maybe he wanted that medal more than I did. Maybe he was going to forget about pushing me that hard. I don't know. There were so many communication mix-ups, and as we learned over the years, it's still evolving. We're constantly redoing our communication, figuring things out that work and don't work, that worked before and work now. But as over the years, people ask, how do you do that in a relationship? And I'm like, I think that the sport actually taught us to communicate and trust in our relationship. So it actually has come over and helped our relationship in so many ways. That's incredible. We might disagree on something and we know how to communicate and work through it, or I spend a lot of money and he just has to accept it. No, I'm just kidding. I just really feel like that should be with all of us. Like that communication and that trust obviously is built, but you got to work hard and you have to constantly, if something has always worked and with your team or your boss or whatever, it might not work the next day. So you have to invite change and discuss change and work together on moving forward. And so I feel like our relationship on the slopes helps our relationship at home.
That's well said. You can spend a bunch of money on couples therapy or just work it out on the slopes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're better off. You're better off.
There you go.
This has been a really fun conversation. Just as we kind of wrap things up, I kind of wanted to just get a final thought from all of you here, and I'll come back to Tucker and start with you. But all of you have talked about so much what you've put into the sport and the people you've worked with and the way you've inspired others. Now I'm curious, and Tucker, starting with you, what's the biggest gift that it's given you? What's the best thing you've gotten out of being a Paralympic swimmer?
Oh, that is a heavy question. I would say just the skills that I learned. Oh man, I don't know. That's a tough one because I think there's so many things you can pull from it, right? Like my sport is very like time driven, right? So like time awareness and just like personal awareness and like having the opportunity to really understand the power of a network. I would say that's probably the best thing I've learned, just because when you get to sports, whether it's at the grassroots level or at the top of the world, you don't do it by yourself. I don't care what sport it is. And I think that just the power of network and community is the biggest thing I took away from my career. I'm actually retired. So I work at BP, and I love the team that I work on and the people that I'm surrounded at, just in business, even outside of just my day job. It's having that opportunity to go to a pool and sit down and share that commonality of swimming is something that, is at every pool that I go to. And I think that that's something that has transferred outside of just all of it. So I would say the biggest thing I learned from sports was definitely the power of community and understanding that you never know when you're going to need someone or when you're ever going to have that relationship that you have, and understanding the ability to press on that when you need to, but also having the opportunity to be that person that people can call and talk to. So I would just say that that's definitely the biggest thing I learned from sports. That's huge.
That's huge. And now I'll swing over to Rico. And Rico, tell us, you touched on it earlier. We talked about getting that camaraderie back, but what's the biggest gift you've been given by the life you've led now as a Paralympian in sled hockey?
I think one of the most touching things I heard was I was always really nervous as an amputee going to my kids' school and picking them up because I was scared they might get teased about it, So I really rarely got out of the car ever if I didn't have to. And one time my daughter came home from school and she said, Bobby, the teacher said, I heard your dad is an amputee. What can he do? And I was like, wow, that's interesting. I was like, what did you tell her? And she goes, everything. And I was so like, I had to hold it together. I tried not to cry, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh. And, you know, they've got to see me, you know, at my lowest time in the hospital bed for 2 months, to go all the way 2 times now and hold up a gold medal and look into the stands and see their smiles and to see their faces. And that's something that I will never forget. And to me, that's something special, that all this hard work, the 4 years that it takes, and time in and day out in the ice rink and with my teammates, and missing things, whether it's their recitals or missing their games, I always make it a point that they have to come to those games, and they have to be there, because why else would I do it? I mean, that to me, that's my favorite part, is seeing their smiles and being able to share that moment with them. So to me, my family and being in that moment and sharing it with them.
Well, you almost got us, Rico. We're all about to start crying over here after you share a story
So
like
good.
that. I really appreciate it. And last but not least, Danelle, you know, obviously you just talked about this has helped in some way, right? And you ended up finding your husband through this one way or another, and your good friend Aziza as well. What other gifts has this sport?
Sorry. I'm done here.
The star of our show right here, making her way out. Danielle, what else? What other gifts have you gotten from this? What else has this meant to you? Big picture.
Big picture, it has meant a lot to me. One, same as Rico, I have a son that has grown up in the Paralympic world, and the way he sees Paralympic sport is absolutely incredible. I'm a storyteller, so I'm gonna have to tell you a couple of quick things. But in 2014, he was watching the Olympic Games, and he saw Ted Ligety, the best ski racer in the United States, GS ski racer, and he's watching him go down the slopes, and he says to his dad, he says, "Dad, do you know Ted Ligety?" And my husband was like, "Yes." And he goes, "What's his problem?" And we were like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "What's his disability?" Because we never taught him about the Olympic Games. All he knew was the Paralympic Games. He's the biggest fan of sport, of Paralympic sport. And he doesn't see the athletes as different. He sees them as amazing athletes. He doesn't see them with a disability. He sees them with strength and courage and everything that every single Paralympian has helped raise my child to be who he is. So that it's given me that gift, which is incredible. And it also has given me the gift to share my story and to inspire others. And I know a lot of people say that disabled people don't like to use the word inspire, but I do. I think that we should all, as people, inspire one another. And if somebody's inspired because I walk down the street, then hell yeah, be inspired. And whether it be me or somebody else, I think getting on a stage and speaking across the world and getting on a stage at ski racing and showing everybody all our possibilities and inspiring one another is the greatest gift of all, because we are better together.
As usual, Danelle, a fantastic way to end things here. You summed up things so nicely each time, and all of you really, really great stories and thoughts. Tucker, Rico, Danelle, thanks so much for being here and sharing your stories. I know you've told them in the past, but our audience appreciates them, and we appreciate you and look forward to
having us.
Yeah, of course. And excited to see whatever it is you do next, whether it's in competition or elsewhere. Thanks so much.
Thank you.